Welcome back, everyone. It's the Black Psychologist Podcast. Happy that you're here. We're back like you never left. Appreciate everybody being here, wherever you are, tuning in, listening, watching. You could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that. All right. I am one half of your humble and gracious host, Dr. Kyle Osborne. He is I, and I am him. And of course, you all know by now, I'm never here by myself. I'm here with my guy. He's been smooth since the days of Under Rules, Never Lose. Dr. Jason Coleman. What's going on, good brother?
What's going on, bro? How are you, man? It's the first day of the NBA.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, more self-care, good brother. More stuff to watch,
Yeah.
whenever you get a chance to,
Lakers coming up later. The great LeBron James,
Yeah, they look like they could use, possibly some counseling or some support, whatever's going on with him and Westbrook over there. That's looking like something, bro.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get rid of Westbrook. I thought he would have been gone by now. I'm surprised, man.
Yeah, he taking himself out the league. He's they said he was coming off the bench and then he was like, all right, cool, I pulled my hamstring. Gotta go to the locker room.
Oh, see.
Yeah. So
yeah, see. Yeah, I get it. It was one of those injuries,
Exactly.
I don't get it, man. I think it was a bad fit, obviously. But I don't know what's gonna happen with that, man, because they're gonna have to do something at some point because you can't waste LeBron's years at this point.
And and I know this whole year is about him breaking the record anyway. This is gonna be, that's what everything is leading up to for him. I mean, they're not really the favorite. I mean, it's LeBron, so they're always gonna be in the mix. But and I know this is all about him breaking that record in LA. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, but then it spills into other things. Like, then it just becomes about selling jerseys and putting people in the seats, right? Because breaking a record this year, that's a big thing. Do it in the LA uniform. Next year, what happens? I think his son comes out next year. Right. So then that's going to be a whole nother, is he going to the Lakers? And are Lakers going to drop, so are they going to play together? Yeah. So, I mean, just get ready.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Before we get started, we absolutely want to thank all the ongoing support, people listening on all the different streaming platforms, people watching on YouTube, getting a lot of feedback and a lot of comments and interactive. We definitely appreciate it because absolutely we will not be able to continue to go through in the manner that we are without your support. So continue to like, subscribe, comment. We love it. If you hate it, we love that too. Put your comments in there. We love any type of feedback. It's great.
I'm definitely just, always, I'm always humbled by the support, appreciative to anybody that takes the time to listen. So thank you. Please continue to subscribe and comment. Appreciate it.
And you know what, Jay? It happens again. We talked about this a little bit last episode. And I tell you, as soon as we record and we post it, something else happens. Like, it never fails. This is my paranoia. This is the story that I'm coming up with, right? I feel like they're doing it on purpose because as soon as we released the last episode, this guy went off again. So he's at it again, Jay. He's making statements or two or three. I'm talking about none other than Yeezy, Yay, Yeezus, whatever he's calling himself this week. But for all intents and purposes, his mama named him Kanye, so we're going to call him Kanye. That's how that's going to go. All right. All right. So Kanye at his Yeezy Season 9 fashion show in Paris a couple weeks ago during the Fashion Week. So Kanye West and Candace Owens were wearing White Lives Matter shirts. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So Kanye gave a speech while wearing the t-shirt. It was emblazoned with the Pope's face on the front. All right. And he says that while he was rocking it, he has his statement. He goes off and says, I'm Ye. Everyone here knows that I am the leader. You can't manage me. And he says that all of this was inspired by his connection with God. So this led to, as you can imagine, a lot of outrage from many people on social media and from his celebrity peers, including Diddy, who he's been going back and forth with on social media, and a few other folks that he's gotten into like these verbal and Twitter spats with. And then the following week, he was tweeting again, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people, so on and so forth, right? But however, again, he's been doubling and tripling down. Like he's been on the White Lives Matter shirts. Like he's been going on different interviewing platforms, different networks, just kind of just going back and forth, explaining. And it seems like there's a different reason every time he talks about it. But this has been causing a lot of outrage and a lot of comments. I have an interesting theory on what I think is going on here, but I wanted to hear your take on it first, Jay. So what do you think is happening here?
Well, there's a lot of separate things going on. So we're talking about the White Lives Matter thing, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you said, he got a lot of backlash. In my opinion, I think it's well deserved. I think the conversation kind of gets lost and it gets conflated with other things and then it gets reframed, right? Again, Kanye West is an intelligent person, so he understands. We have to understand why people are so upset with him, right? We know his history in terms of his mother being a professor, his father, or them being involved with the Black Panthers and the Civil Rights Movement and all of that, right? Mm-hmm. Even without all of that, people understand that the reason, whether you agree with the organization or not, whatever. The slogan, you know what I mean? The reason for the slogan, why is it? Is because we're talking about a disproportionate or too many people of color being killed and unarmed, right? And we don't see that in mass with other groups. So that is why moving forward, right? When you see people with hats that say musicians' lives matter and plumbers' lives matter, and when they had the Blue Lives Matter, and the same with his White Lives Matter t-shirt, it's diminishing, it's taking from the original message. Now, of course, when the same person, when you challenge them, they're gonna run into their corner and say, but don't all lives matter, right? But the point is, the reason why we haven't had any of these other slogans before, Blue Lives Matter, White Lives Matter, it's because there's an understanding that is already the case. That is why this is called the Black Psychologist Podcast, right? Because if you want the White Psychologist Podcast, all you gotta do is type in podcast psychology, and all of the white psychologists will come up, right? It's more of an emphasis of the fact that we are less than 8%, right? So we're saying we're here, mm-hmm. Right? So I've gotten those questions. I've gotten those DMs, right? Well, that's racist. You guys are calling it the Black Psychologist Podcast. Why? Because we're highlighting who we are, right? We're showing minorities where to find us, right? So when he does that, and he has a platform of all these people as a sidebar, what he's doing is giving fodder, right, to people that want to diminish the meaning of that story, right? So I'll just give that to you. That's my piece. But that's what I think about the White Lives Matter. How he's melting down on Drink Champs and other platforms is another issue. But I want to hear your response to the White Lives Matter.
All right. So I view this as trolling with intention or purpose. All right, and I'm going to tell you why. I believe that there is external motivation regarding his behavior, as far as his White Lives Matter and some of his other behavior. All right, so I don't know if you can recall last month, right? The month of September, he was very vocal about his issues with Gap and Adidas, right? He's in these long-term contracts with them. And of course, in true Kanye fashion, he takes to social media to voice his frustration and his dissatisfaction, and he's coming up with all these other different, they're in slavery, contract, blah, 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 right? So on and so forth. I'm going to try to give you a short form answer. All right. So he's in as a contract with Adidas until 2026, and he started a 10-year contract with Gap. All right. So he's dissatisfied with the deals that he signed within these contracts. So
Right.
Specifically with Adidas. So Adidas, I believe he has like a revenue sharing deal. However, he doesn't have the ability to make decisions regarding manufacturing and distribution. Also, within the contract, there are limitations. So even though he owns like the Yeezy name in the contract, it's like he's licensing the name to Adidas. So he can't put like Yeezy, Yay, Life of Pablo, whatever other, name, image, or likeness on any other type of apparel, right? It's strictly like Adidas has their contract. It's like a non-compete contract that he has.
Right.
He can only you put that on Adidas merchandise or Adidas apparel. And I believe it's something similar with Gap. So he doesn't like this. So what's away the fact that he wants to get out of his contract, but they're not going to let you out? Guess what I can do? Let me go out here and go do something that's going to piss everybody off, right? So he went out there with the White Lives Matter situation, right? With the White Lives Matter t-shirt. All right. What happened after that happened, right? All the outrage, all these other different things. Well, you know what Adidas did? Adidas released a statement and said, contract under review. Because what's going to happen? You get all this outrage. You have all these different sponsors, corporations, all these other deals that Adidas has. And if they're going to recognize and see that they're losing that bottom line because of their Yeezy brand deal or such is associated with him, and he's out here making these offensive statements and creating all of this,
I'm listening.
outrage.
I'm just looking up something right quick.
Right. Same thing, right? So what did he do after that, right? He went off and he tweeted DEFCON 3 to Jewish people. So now that you've pissed off or offended these marginalized groups, what do you think is most likely to happen with a lot of these contracts that he wants to get out? And most likely they're going to drop him because it's like, hey, we can't do business with you because you're affecting the bottom line. He knows this. He's, like you said, he's a very intelligent person in regards. He's been around, all of these other different corporations. So if I want out of this contract and you're not going to let me out because I don't like the negotiations and terms and conditions that I signed, let me go off and go do this outlandish behavior, and you're going to terminate my contract. Now I can go off and do all these different things. So for me, I feel like, okay, he knows what he's doing, right? He's well aware. He's weaponizing, the white lives, Black Lives Matter movement with the White Lives Matter t-shirt because he knows he's going to get a reaction. He knows people are going to be pissed off, and he knows people that's going to affect their bottom line. And then he'll be able to go off and do what he wants because he won't be obligated contractually to any of these other different companies. So that was kind of the thing that came up for me when I saw this come about. And I'm like, oh, okay. All right, this is the way he wants it. Because as soon as they came out, Adidas and Gap were like, oh, contract under review. Like they started to do their self-preservation, trying to distance themselves.
The Gap joint was done, I think, before that. Okay. Gap is done. I don't know if it was exactly before that, but Gap is done.
Yeah, Adidas is still under review. They're reviewing the situation. So they're like,
and to me, I think that's their statement to the public, right? But Kanye West would have to do, and I'm not diminishing anything he's done so far, but he would have to do a hell of a lot more for Adidas to drop him.
I mean, listen,
like I'm just being like bro, you grew up and so did I, right? How many times, and don't bring up Run DMC because the 80s came and left. But when was anybody ever looking to buy some Adidas? I mean, not saying Adidas wasn't cool, but you know what I mean. It was all about Jordan and Nike. Like, Kanye brought Adidas not only into cool status, but into luxury sneaker status. Like, that's what I was just looking up. 10% of the revenue of the company total comes from him.
Oh yeah.
They're talking about apparel, sportswear, clothing. Yo, 10%. Yeezy ain't going. I'm not saying, of course, we're just talking, but, and I get what you're saying, but he would have to do a hell of a lot more for them. Now you're gonna see. We've already seen Chase Banks sever they relationship with him, but that was related to the Drink Champs thing. You know what I'm saying? Like
he said, he's making his rounds.
And that's why I said, like, I got two different opinions, because the White Lives Matter thing, I feel more in line with you, right? In terms of, I think it kind of goes along with him kind of being an artist and thinking abstractly. I'm just saying this is in his mind, right? And thinking different. And everybody hates me because I'm presenting the opposite view. You know what I'm saying? Like that type of shit. Like what he probably thought when he put on the red hat. That's just what I'm thinking. Based off how the same thing with the Confederate flag and all this. He thinking that he's doing icon type shit when it's really just
the symbolism.
Not. But, and I'm gonna be very careful when I say this next part. So that's what I think is going on with the White Lives Matter. The Drink Champs, and respectfully, like you ain't seen the whole thing yet. It's 3 hours, right? So you watch that, watch the Chris Cuomo interview. You can't really see the whole Tucker Carlson thing because they cut it up, right? When you start watching that, and again, I'm gonna be very careful what I'm saying. This is just my opinion, and I'm really not even gonna give my opinion. But I think there's a lot more going on when you start to see how he's behaving, and how his speech is, and how his thoughts sound, and all of those things. And you start to get more worried for himself, and I'll just leave it there. You know what I mean? Again, I'm not excusing anything he said, but what I'm saying is, if you listen to the interview with Nori, you know what I mean, and you try to follow him from subject to subject. At lots of points, it's not even coherent what he's talking about.
Very disorganized.
Right. And again, I'm not diminishing his beliefs, but you're going to hear him talking a lot about God and religion, and him comparing himself to Moses and all of these people, and it gets, and the conspiracy theories are all webbed throughout it, right? So everybody can have their own opinion of what's going on, but you start to get more worried about like what's going on, and hope that he's taking care of himself. That's all I'm gonna say.
No, you and I, of course, Kanye is neither one of our clients or our patients. However, the alarms and the flags start to come into play when you start to see the erratic behavior, when you see, like you said, the non-linear dialogue, right? Where he's just from topic to topic, is all over the place. The religious preoccupation, if you want to call it, grandiosity, all these other different things, right? These are alarms for you and I as a clinician. We're just like, all right, what else is going on here? There's also a component that I'll say is behavioral, right? Because a lot of this is also learned behavior. Unfortunately, and I know, this is not the first time he said things like that. Like he said, he had the red hat. He said slavery was a choice, all these other different things, right? At the same time, what effect has that had on his bottom line? You still got people that are going to go out there and they're going to buy, like you said, the Yeezy sneaks. They're going to buy the Yeezy slides. They're going to buy whatever, the Gap jacket, right? Sold out in minutes. People are still going to fill out his stadium when he has his listening party, because this could very well also be a part of a rollout. It's possible, right? But when he's releasing new music or whatever, people are going to go to those stadiums. They're going to go listen. They're going to say, oh, you see the jacket he's rocking? I got to get that. Gap is going to release, or not Gap right now, it's the end of the contract, but whatever fashion or whatever. What I'm saying is there are desirable consequences that he's experiencing. And and I know, any individual, like if I go out and I say this outlandish things or this offensive material or what have you, but people are still going to buy my products. People are still going to go out there, and my products or my items that I sell are going to sell out in hours. He's receiving desirable content. Like, people can be up in arms, but there's some of those same people are still going to go out and buy his merchandise. So it's like,
But
well, I
that's
can
why
go out and say
that's
these things, and nobody's going to like. What does my consequences are desirable? They're favorable to me.
but that's why I said, like, with the t-shirt and wearing the hat, like, right? Because he's wearing the t-shirt in like a fashion show, right? He's wearing a hat where he knows paparazzi is gonna snap him,
Yeah.
right? That's why I said, in my opinion, we're all speculating. I think it's misguided, but I think he's doing that thinking that he's doing something that's like, in his mind, like he's going against the grain and anti-establishment and all of this stuff. And to me, I don't understand, like, I don't agree with him, but it's not out of the ordinary to me, because we're talking about entertainers, whether it's rappers, whether it's actors, whether it's actresses. Attention is currency to them, right? But like I said before, if you watched, did you see him on Chris Cuomo?
Yeah.
Did you see him on Drink Champ?
So yeah, bits and pieces, excerpts from it.
When you see that, that's not what I was just talking about. That's not attention. It's the same person, but that just presents totally different to me. Like, I'm gonna be very honest. Like, it was a very, if you look on that interview, Chris Cuomo asked him a very, like, carefully, and I know he has his own problems. I mean, we're just talking about the incident, right? He asked him a very candid question. He asked him, like, "Oh, we just want to, are you taking care of yourself? Your health?" Right? He didn't, right? And so, and Kanye absolutely responded to him, was like, "Yo, you asked that question in an artful way that was, kind of like non-offensive." He kind of like chuckled, right? And then he kind of like asked him back, like, "Yo, did you work out today?" Just, and not like, it wasn't necessarily a nasty exchange, but Chris Cuomo responded and he was like, "No, I didn't, but I took my depression medication like I take every day." Right? That's what he said to him. So in essence, he was obviously asking a question that none of us have the right to ask, right? But what I'm saying is, there's a reason why he asked him that, is because when you see him in these interviews, it looks strange, very strange. And as much as an outside observer can observe, it will worry you. You would be worried for anybody if you saw that type of behavior. So I'm gonna just leave it there. But
I mean, I was worried at the first Drink Champs interview, because it was disorganized. It was just very disorganized, right? Non-linear. He was just talking about just these random things, just making a lot of different statements. And just as a clinician, because even though, and I can only speak for myself, but I imagine you experience this also. There are certain elements when you hear how people are conducting themselves, even in an interview, and you kind of see how the conversation is going, just the manner and how they're speaking, the clinician hat comes on, right? Even if they're not our patient, you're certain cues that we've been trained to pick up on. You get concerned. You get concerned, and even just kind of the way he's moving, some of the things that he repeats, and that it's just so fragmented. It's just like you said, it's so incoherent. It's just disjointed. A lot of some of the things he says.
Listen, it was points in that interview on Drink Champs where they didn't know what the hell he was talking about. But right. But see, and this is how you got to understand, like, honestly, it's sad if you step back. And now I'm just talking in general.
Yeah.
I'm not even talking specifically about him, right? But it's sad if you think about the situations in general, because platforms, like, people will exploit your mental health for clicks and for views, right? Because the same way I said, my personal feeling watching those interviews was like one of concern, right, for a person's well-being. There are other people that watch the interviews and they're excited about what they see, right? They're entertained, right? They might not fully understand what they're watching, You know what I mean? But they're entertained. But I think that's part of the danger because specifically if you look at the Drink Champs, and it's hard to find because they pulled it down from off YouTube and Revolt pulled it. But there are times where DJ Nori and DJ FM, I think his name is FM, I don't know. They don't know what the hell Kanye West is talking about, right? And they respond the way most people do when somebody starts talking about something you don't know what they're talking about. It's just dead silence. He'll be like, yeah, you know what I mean? And it's dead silence. And then he just goes on to the next topic. Right? And I mean, like, for most people, if that happens, you're gonna be like, yo, you understand what I'm saying, right? Or you're gonna re-explain it and he go right to the next thing.
All right.
Right? And only reason why I'm bringing this up is they didn't push back on him and they didn't ask him what the hell he was talking about when they didn't follow what he was talking about because they wanted him to keep talking for content. Even if what he's saying sounds strange and bizarre, right? And out of the ordinary. They thinking about the whole time, him and Kanye talking about winning awards for the episode. Right? So you got to understand where the person's motivation is.
And that's
you know, and I love Nori as an artist, but think about it. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's they didn't know what he was talking about at times. Like it was clear. It's like if I was like, yeah, man, and you know, it's dope over here on Mars. And you just look at me and you're like, see what you doing? That's what they was doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's concerning. It is. Just like you said, when you take a step back.
People will exploit you, you know, for clicks, you know, so.
And that perpetuates that lack of insight. Because something you said earlier, I want to tease out is like you mentioned currency, right? For a lot of celebrities, attention is currency for them. And what did he say when he was?
I'm gonna be honest. I didn't make that up. I didn't make that up.
Nah, you're right. You hit the nail on the head for the reason that he said when referencing the Fashion Week with the White Lives Matter, I took over the show. That's all people were talking about, right? They're talking about my shirts. They're talking about so on and so forth. So again, it reinforces that. It perpetuates because he got the attention. The same way, like you mentioned, he's on Drink Champs. He's on a lot of different interviews where he's getting that attention. Like you said, they want the content. So his level of insight doesn't improve because it's still like people are talking about it. And he's like, well, I'm getting the attention. So he's getting reinforced. He's getting rewarded with that. And it only just, and it's like you said, it's really concerning. And then how he takes, like you said, he's smart, he's creative. However, when you take the White Lives Matter, just as you kind of alluded to earlier, he's weaponizing, right? You're weaponizing that particular movement that was so meaningful and so important to a particular, you know, marginalized population, given what was taking place in the community. And then you take it, flip it, and now you're utilizing, okay, well, certain people are going to, one group of people that are going to be outraged about this. And then you're going to have another group of folks that are absolutely going to capitalize, right? They're going to be like, yeah, you're right. Like you said, all lives matter, or so-and-so lives matter, this lives matter. So the insight is absolutely, I feel like is poor, but it's getting reinforced and rewarded by the attention, things that he's getting.
And that's why, this is why I separated the two issues, right? Because with the t-shirt, right? To me, that's like being negatively reinforced. Like that's the wrong reinforcement attention, in my humble opinion. This, what you're saying on these interviews, like this is something else. I don't see entertaining with this. This is concerning, right? This is something else. And I'm just gonna leave it there, you know, I'm not saying, I think people should just be concerned and be, you know, more than, I'm not saying they shouldn't be outraged, right? Because they definitely shouldn't be entertained, but I was concerned.
Yeah, I think when you pull back, and we'll leave it at that, when you pull back the curtain and you start to ask why, right? For the reason that people immediately are going to go based off the, the disposition situation, right? Oh, he's doing this. He must be this. He's an asshole. He's narcissistic. He's throwing out everything, right? But we got to pull back the curtain and say, okay, why? What's contributing to this? Especially like you mentioned, the interviews. When you start asking, okay, is it the disposition or what's the situation that he's dealing with, right? Like you said, they asked him. He asked him pretty much. He alluded, are you taking care of yourself? In other words, how is your mental health? Because I'm taking my medication. That's what he was alluding for or insinuating. So, and
listen,
pull back the curtain.
I'm not saying
it's the why.
I'm not saying that. Like I said, Chris Cuomo got his own problems. And I'm not saying that anybody has a right to ask anybody if they're taking their medication, right? But if you are going to, at least put your own cards on the table. But don't get no more realer than that, right?
Couldn't agree more. All right, so listen, not to be outdone is Andrew Tate, the self-entitled and described success coach. And Mr. This guy, the success coach, I chuckle at that, man. And influencer who became wildly popular this past summer. Now, he's been subsequently banned from major social media sites, all right, for some of his views as it pertains to women. And so I want to make sure I describe this guy in all his glory, all right? So, a lot of his views as it pertains to women and how they should be treated include, but are not limited to, dating women ages 18 to 19 is better because you can imprint on them, and that women should stay home and men own women as property. All right. Now he's also he started to gain some a following when during the Me Too movement, when that was taking place. He stated that women should hold some responsibility for being raped. All right. So although he's been banned from those major social media sites, the Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, he's still been able to spread his word and spread his gospel on the internet. And as of late or mid-August, it was reported that his videos on hashtag Andrew Tate have been viewed 12.7 billion times.
Oh, that's what I was looking for.
All right. For me, Jay, this appears to be a classic case of outrage marketing, and it appears to be working like clockwork. All right. No matter how vile and like just hurtful, because that's really what this is, right? This is words that can absolutely be hurtful. He's pandering to a certain audience. He's pandering to a certain demographic, and whether that may be older, conservative, toxic, abusive, whatever population is, he's pandering to a certain audience, and it's working. Like I said, he's got 12.7 billion views. Okay.
Right.
So whether you agree with him or not, and it appears that there is a significant population of people that agree with him, he's getting people outraged. He's also being rewarded with just some of the heinous things that he's saying because he knows that it's going to get a reaction. People will watch his videos because you heard about it and how vile they are and how negative they are, and people are going to watch the video just so they can comment on it. And again, there's a good population of people who agree with what he's saying. So this type of outrage marketing, outrage media, whatever terminology people would like to use, this is what's reinforcing this. I don't agree with anything that this guy has to say. However, misogyny is pretty trendy and pretty popular with a lot of people, especially those that are into, this, toxic view of relationships and how men should treat women. And he's totally capitalizing on it. And it appears that even though he's not on a lot of these social media platforms, his videos find their way. So even though if he's not posting it, people are sharing it. So it's working.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. I don't really know too much about him. Like you sent me the article, so I was reading a little bit, and I was reading some more now. The crazy part is, you said he had 4.1 million followers on Instagram, so it's a large, you know what I mean, following. But if you think about it, it kind of makes sense that he has like a lot of these kind of outlandish and extreme, you know, beliefs, because they're saying like he started becoming known, you know, from posting on Infowars, obviously Alex Jones' platform, and we see, I think he got a judgment against him for $1 billion recently.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where he started. So that's the mud, right? So again, I don't know too much about him, but what I do also know is from what I'm reading there, um, he was actually, I guess, so popular in 2022, they said he surpassed both Donald Trump and COVID-19 searches in Google. Think about that.
Look at that.
All right. So what I think, like, you know, we've had this conversation about a bunch of different things. I think what we kind of seeing is, like, they canceled him, and then it's backlash. Like his videos, you got other people like circulating his videos now.
Right.
You know. So what the answer to this is, I don't really know, man, because you know it's not like this is like masses of people. You know, I think it's probably a relatively small group of dudes. Well, let me not say that, because he has a large following. So, but I mean, I don't know the profile of the person that fits into this. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Have they looked into like what's the type of male that kind of gravitates towards this type of content?
No, but that'd be interesting to find out. I do feel that this what he's saying most likely serves as like a confirmation bias to a lot of men who, again, maybe I don't want to use the word conservative, but are into that kind of prehistoric, because it justifies their beliefs, right?
Well, I
People,
just
you know
never
what I mean?
heard of him. I'm not a fool though, right? I'm not a fool. I know in the last 5 to 7, 10 years, I know there's a whole red pill movement on the internet, right? So it's not necessarily a conservative movement, but some people would probably call it toxic masculinity. Some people would call it a red pill movement. That's what he comes out of or represents. So I know that. I'm not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I just never really kind of heard of him, because obviously he's not really catering to my demographic or me. So he's never
That's
really
probably why you're not gonna find him on your algorithm, you know, because
right.
that's not how you move. Then yeah.
So reading about him, you know, he kind of fits in that red pill kind of space. And you know, with that, I kind of answer my own question, right? Because um, there is a large and growing group of people, you know, I guess that are starting to get more attention now in terms of people that kind of study and look at their motivation, um, who are kind of consuming this, right? But I think it's right in line with, you know, the misinformation, you know, that people have like willingly accepted in COVID-19, you know, some of the misinformation that people were willingly spreading and accepting during the last presidency. It's kind of right in line with somebody spouting conspiracy theories and you know, like whatever else, you know, misinformation. But
Yeah, you
no,
feel, and this tends to happen when you have any form of movement, right? There's always two opposite ends of the spectrum. You'll have, like, so in this case, you have the Me Too movement, women empowerment, other different things of that nature that correlate with that movement. And then, of course, you got to have somebody who's going to be that antagonist at the other end of the spectrum, who's going to say, nah, forget this. These women are making too much moves, and is going to start to reiterate or say things even that most men, or maybe other folks that, you know, aren't proponents of the Me Too movement and other women empowerment, and he gets to be that voice. And that's going to resonate with a lot of people. It happens with so many other different movements, like we just talked about, right? Like if you have the BLM movement, okay, you know what? You're going to have somebody who's going to come out, the antagonist of the opposite end. Oh, well, all lives matter, white lives matter, blah, 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 right? Blue lives, all these other different things. So in this case, he's the guy, right? He's the guy that's going to be like, all right, no, I'm going to, lead the ideology of the toxic masculinity because it directly is an opposition of the Me Too movement, of women doing other different things.
Right.
I imagine people, offenders and other different folks that have, that are on the opposite end of the Me Too movement. He's their voice, right? It's
Right.
like he's totally capitalizing on it. Like, yo, someone's gonna be the bad guy or antagonist is gonna be me.
And you're right about that, because what I was just reading is that they said he kind of gained popularity too, like through like tweets and stuff, defending Harvey Weinstein, right? Where people got mad at him and he got, publicity from it. So listen, I don't necessarily agree with him. I don't agree with him, on the stuff that I've read, hell no. But he's, for some people, they think he's filling some type of void, but
He's
again,
voice.
like I said,
part of the Toxic Avengers.
but it's funny though, you know what I mean? Because again, like I remember like a couple of years ago, somebody had to even tell me that the last time I had really heard of the red pill stuff was The Matrix, you know what I mean?
Right.
But a couple of years ago, like I was talking to somebody, colleague, friend, and they use that term, and then you start looking, and it's a whole community and rabbit hole of people and information and all this other stuff. So that's why he's popular. There's a lot of people, and we're talking about like globally, internationally. This isn't like him being popular in North Carolina and California. This is like, different countries. So, I mean, it's interesting because, I wonder how, like this movement is going to kind of affect male, female kind of relationships, interactions, those type of things moving forward, because I don't agree with him, but there's a lot of people that follow him.
Yeah, and he covers the whole gamut, right? So we're talking about dating, and then also that women should stay home and own this property. Like that's a wide toxic net. So somebody, I said, it's a wide toxic net, right? So he talks about how dating women from age 18 to 19. Then he also talks about women should stay home, men owning them as property. Like he just has a whole wide array of like these toxic
He said that?
views. Yeah, he said. So you're in some form or fashion, he's gonna hit on some form of whether it's like you said, whether it may be conservative or in an area where someone may feel like they're being slighted by yeah. So he's gonna hit on that. So he's gonna it only takes 1 or 2 videos for someone to be like, yo, you know what, he's right, man. These women
but that's
this and that gets him.
But that's the strategy. It's like you throw everything at the wall and see what sticks.
Right. And somebody's gonna stick with some form of fashion. Somebody is gonna do it. Like you said, there's a lot of people that feel like they're being slighted because of the advances of women, whether it be working, whether it be in relationships or the other different things. So did you get a chance to see his credentials?
Credential? No, I know he was a kickboxer.
Yeah. So again, he's a self-entitled or self-described success coach, not even a life coach, right? He's success coach.
I mean,
yeah,
I'm not gonna go into.
Bro,
I mean, that's.
I love these coaches, man. Like I love the terms that these self-entitled individuals come up with, man. Of like, yeah, I'm a this coach. I love it, man. Like it's.
Now I got a question for you regarding this, because in this article, right, towards the end, they were kind of like, I feel like the author was kind of like talking about like this type of mindset, masculinity results from like childhood, right? And that's the only part of the article I kind of it kind of went left for me. And I'm not saying I totally disagree. This is why I'm asking you. Because they were saying, and they gave the example like, yo, when your daughter says, or stop telling kids that the little boy who pulls the little girl's pigtails likes her, pulls them because they like her.
Right.
Implying, I guess, that even at that age, you know, we're importing toxic traits into male children, right? I'm not even kind of talking about that. I don't really necessarily agree with it to that extent. You know what I mean? But do you think it's more so that type of stuff in kids in childhood, right? And, you know, pick up your little girl when she's crying, don't pick up your little boy, let him be a man, like that type of stuff? Or it's literally like these people that grow into like manhood, young adulthood, for whatever reason, they're not where they need to be. Their relationships might not be working out. They don't have the social skills, and then they gravitate to this space. I don't necessarily know that it's like their mama and putting them in a position where you understand what I'm saying? Like,
we're not
that's where they that's where they win at the end.
Not gonna go full Sigmund Freud here, you know what I mean? And attachments and Mary Ainsworth and all those other different things. I do feel that, and again, I don't know his history or what his experiences. I think a portion of it is trauma informed for this type of individual, where you've had some experiences that have contributed to some of these views. And then I also look at it just kind of similar to what we talked about, just being an opportunist, right? You capitalizing on, like, I can imagine him, you know, being in some type of social gathering, whether it be in person or virtual or online, and he threw out a thought, right? And it just blew up on the comments. Like you said, he did something on whether it was Twitter, and you just got a massive reaction to it. You throw it at the wall and see, oh, okay, this might be something. This might be something for me to capitalize on. I can monetize off of it. So I feel like it's a combination of both with these type of situations where, yeah, he absolutely may believe, or he's been experiencing some form of fashion, maybe with some inept social skills, bad dating situations, so on and so forth, right? Because it's coming from a place. It's coming from somewhere. All right. I don't want to blame it. I don't think it's like a cognitive dissonance where it's like, you know what I mean? So I feel like it's somewhere in relation to what he's experiencing, and capitalizing on it.
You know what? That's interesting, because you talking about how he got here.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree. I agree with you. But I was asking you about his audience.
No, the audience, I feel like it's the same way. I feel like he throws different things out there, and it's gonna, even the smallest thing will resonate with somebody. Okay. Now, especially, I do feel like the more information that, and I'm speaking just as a parent, right? I do feel like the more information that we get about how kids develop, right? So I feel like the whole concept or the thought of, oh, well, the boy just hits the girl, like, because that's what they mentioned in the article. Oh, well, the little boy hit the girl, he pulled her hair, and then you go off and you tell the girl, oh, he just likes you. That's all that means. That, to me, that's bullshit, right? Like, first and foremost, we're reinforcing that type of behavior. We've got more information that, one, that's not the case, right? We know now that kid, all right, he might be interested in Dora, but it also might be a situation where he's not learning pro-social behaviors at home. So, and I don't want any kid putting their hands on my little girl. I don't care how old you are. And I'm not going to give him any bail and say, oh, well, he likes you, that's why he's doing it. Because then you're reinforcing that. So I feel like just even as parents, little things, we're learning more information about it.
But this is why I said, I was just asking about the audience, because like with that specifically, right, it works both ways too, right? Because we would tell the little boy in kindergarten, when the little girl hit her with a block, don't cry because you're a little boy, and don't be mad at her because she's just a girl, right? When if he go home with a black eye, his mom is going to be just as concerned. So that's like we're not concerned about the safety of our little boys, right? And we teach them at a very young age that they should take punishment and not show emotions. So that's why I didn't even really like that's why I kind of discount what the author is implying, like that the audience is toxic little boys that grew up into men. That's why I was asking you, because I would more so subscribe to these are a group of men, like or young men, right? You know, that are looking for something, right? And this is what they found. You know what I mean?
They want
like
their advantage, right? They want their advantage at some point, because who wouldn't, right? We're looking at it just from a social component. Like if you're a guy, like just you want the advantage in any type of situation. Of course, he's talking about imprinting on women, and because he's giving them, again, it's that confirmation by he's allowing a man in whatever situation to do whatever. Right. So I mean, what guy, depending on your values, is not going to go along with that?
Right.
So that's why I feel like the audience, yeah. So I don't feel like everybody's toxic in it, but I do feel like he's hitting on just different areas where I feel like some people have had.
But why? It's, you got to remember, right? Like, and I'm not totally equating this, but you like when you like it when somebody be like, yeah, you a king, brother.
Oh yeah, right. Speaks to that,
right? Because when somebody says that, like you royalty, or we say it to each other, like we black royalty. People say that you elevating yourself, right? Even if you're not elevating yourself above another person, like you're inflating your own sense of importance, right? It makes you feel good when you hear that. So what he's doing is he's putting all of those men on an imaginary platform. You know what I mean? And I'm sure that not all, but there's a portion of his audience that without him and the dream he kind of creates around them, they wouldn't feel like that, right? He fills that void for them, right? He makes them feel like they're on that platform every day, especially if they surround themselves in an echo chamber, right? So it's the same way that a person could have prejudice or racist views, right? And they might not have a penny. They might not even have enough money to take care of themselves or their family, but they would call you a racial slur. And they would never change places with you because in their mind and in their echo chamber, they would rather be poor and white than a rich minority. So it's the same, to me, it's the same concept with the people that he has, you know? Yeah. Maybe not all of them. I mean, whoever, some of them might just
no, but I mean, what is conservatism in regards to, especially as it pertains to like relationships? What is that rooted in? The man is, like you said, it's the king. I'm the king of the household. No, the woman stays home. I got this, right? I'm in control. Well, it's like he's like you mentioned, he's an extremist, or that's the views that he's posing out there. Yeah. So even like you said, the guy that doesn't have a dollar to his name should still feel like, yeah, I'm more powerful or more important than this woman, right? You do what I say. So it feeds that, right? It feeds no matter where you are in life, right? You're the man. You should be able to imprint on women. You should 18, 19-year-old women, you should be able to have a feel of that. So yeah, he's absolutely empowerment. Like he's creating a whole different ecosystem of like the good old boys club.
It's like back to Archie Bunker.
Yeah, man. And what guy, especially someone that's not really doing well in whatever aspect of his life, wouldn't want that?
But see that's where that's where you get into the millions, right? Because it's not only guys that aren't doing well. It is guys, because the guys that are doing well hear the same message and they want that too. What would be, if we just thinking about along that line, what would be the difference, right? Because it's going to be the same draw, right? He's creating a world where you are superior, right? So if you're on that team, it's just like if somebody came and they constructed a whole, I don't know, lifestyle perspective around Buffalo Bills fans being kings and queens, and they billionaires, and we got secret. You're gonna have people that gravitate, those people that are already included in that group. They may cling to that and be drawn to that because they're included, right? Or they're missing something. You know, again, might be a bad analogy, but you know what I'm saying.
I think the difference would be whatever your core values are in empathy, right? Because this sounds great. Like this sounds great to a certain demographic, but then even as me as a guy, I speak for myself, and I can be like, oh, okay, he's saying women should be there. I mean, but it's also like, oh, well, I have a sister or I have a mom, and I wouldn't want that on the other end. Like, I wouldn't want another man imposing that view or will on my mom or on my sister or whatever. So then that's where the other things kick in, right? So the kind
Right.
of well-adjusted people will be like, nah, boy, he's tripping. Like, even though he said this, and I might kind of agree with that, the rest of the stuff he's talking about imprinting on women and the women have accountability in being raped. You're like, nah. You know what I mean? Like, that's when
And that's,
stuff
I
kicks
mean,
in.
that's where I think you get the bans from, right? Because most reasonable people, even if he tries to draw you in with the king stuff or this and that,
Right.
that analogy or whatever, it's gonna get weird real quick. You know what I mean? Because that's why it's an extreme view. So we'll see. I mean, listen, they banned him. But these people have supporters, and they repost and repost. So
Yeah. Well, Jay, a couple weeks ago, right? Some potentially good news. A couple weeks ago, for the first time, a government-backed panel recommended that adults under the age of 65 be scanned for anxiety disorders, even in the absence of symptoms, and that the adults should be screened also to include, or the adults that also should be included in the screening include pregnant women and postpartum. All right. So this is something that they're trying to. This is the first time that this has taken place, where again a government-backed or panel it wants to incorporate this into like your annual wellness visits. All right. So I like this. I do think that the screening is a good idea. The only caveat that I have is what are we gonna do? Say once we give the screen, right? So once you're done, once the screening has taken place, like for me, my fear is that what will providers do if someone comes up positive or past a certain threshold? What happens after that, right? Like so, you have to think about it right now. Unfortunately, we don't already have enough mental health providers as is, right? Like COVID, as we've talked about on previous episodes, have it's absolutely more people are in need of mental health providers more than ever, right? However, now if it's a situation, it'll be similar to like, is it going to be similar to like trying to schedule a specialist, like where you make an appointment and then 3 to 4 months out, like if you score past a certain threshold, like what happens after that? Like, do you immediately get seen for somebody? Is there somebody in house, or is it like, oh well, we're gonna get you set up with somebody? And again, because there's such a discrepancy um, with finding a mental health clinician right now, if they say, all right, cool, this was your anxiety screen, we have some concerns, we got you hooked up, or we got a referral. It's 3 months away. Like that's discouraging to a patient or to a client.
Mhm.
So that's really one of my only concerns about this particular screen. Like I like the idea, I like the intentions, and I absolutely feel like it's necessary. However, it's just going to be all right if someone does come up past a certain threshold or with a certain particular score. What do you do next? What's after that? So that's.
I mean, listen, I kind of look at this as being implemented in like PCP, primary care physician office or nurse's office in school. If you're talking about these type of simple screenings, maybe anybody paraprofessional, somebody else should be able to give them. I think it's a good idea personally because all of these people that I already named, they already do referrals to a bunch of places already. You know what I'm saying? Like nurses going to do referrals to the eye doctor. They're going to do referrals to wherever the kid got to go. Primary care physicians are definitely ready to give referrals. I think it's just about kind of coordinating something in each state or each county, whatever you want to do it nationally, you know, where you have a kind of a database of people. You know what I mean? You can find a physician right now, you know, on your phone in 10 minutes. So it should, you know, if you're going to do this on a large scale, you know, then obviously you got to have the resources in place.
Right. Yeah.
But I think it's just about making the connections. You know what I mean? Because if we being like, honestly, I'm just talking about what I see. Like, I mean, a lot of times, like, some of this stuff is about marketing and connecting people with people, right? Because mental health and medicine have not traditionally been together, right? So how are those relationships going to be made if it's not through individual people or alliances made from like schools or internships? And those are rare occurrences. Most of the time, if you got a doctor's office and it's next to a therapist, they don't know each other.
Yeah.
They're not sending referrals back and forth. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, unless it happens from the hospital, which is a select amount of people, it doesn't really happen. So I just think you have to have the infrastructure in place or the resources, but listen, mental health is here to stay. So it needs to be incorporated. Same way we do blood pressure screenings at health fairs, expos, you know, in the parking lot, the Great Adventure. They should be doing, you can give somebody an anxiety questionnaire, you know, depression questionnaire. And listen, it's not perfect. So sometimes you may just have to hand somebody a brochure and give them information and they got to follow up. We, you know what I'm saying? I don't think we assume that responsibility at all times. Like, if somebody is suicidal or somebody is depressed and they check something off on a checklist, which is a screening, it's not a therapeutic relationship, and you give them some information, they would have still had that depressive symptom or feeling whether you gave them the information or not. So I don't look at it like we assuming like patient relationships by giving somebody a screening and then saying like it's suggested that you follow up. You know what I mean? Like, because when you meet somebody in the park and they got high blood pressure and you tell them to go follow up if they have a heart attack, fucking, you know, 6 hours later, it ain't the nurse's fault who took your blood pressure. You know what I mean? So we're talking about prevention here. I'm not saying you saying it, but we're talking about prevention, and it's never going to be perfect. But all you can do is give people information, try, you know, give them and have resources available.
And that's what also is going to be what's important, for the reason that supporting and training the primary care docs, who are typically the first people to treat patients, right? They're the first ones to see it, like you said, with these screenings. So what's going to be crucial are those questionnaires and those measures, right, that we just talked about in the office. Like, what questionnaires, what measures are you using that are going to be effective, right? Are they the most recent ones that are picking up that are, you know, culturally sensitive, right? Because you're going to have different people depending on the area.
Yo, bro,
Currently,
I respect what you said, but I'm gonna just say this, like, yo, what you saying is absolutely correct, right? But let's look at this practically, right? Primary care doctors, they're doing it anyway. They're prescribing antidepressants. They're doing therapy informally with their patients. They don't have relationship, because when mama or daddy is depressed, that's who they're going to talk to. They're not going to go to therapy. They're going to talk to that person for 5 minutes about their issue. And if that person has nothing to offer, they're going to move on. You know what I'm saying? So I get it, but what is the PHQ, the patient health questionnaire or whatever?
Yeah,
that's a screening they've been using for a long time. You know what I mean? A CDI, a pediatrician doesn't need any training to do the CDI.
I'll see that.
You know what I mean? Or BDI.
If I feel like, and again, this is the perfect world. However, if you have, this is government backed. If you're going to do a rollout, you have to increase and reinforce the infrastructure, right? You got to have more of the current comprehensive tools and measures to be added to someone's, because this is going to be a patient's part of their annual evaluation, right? This is what they're talking about. So you got to have the updated measures. Also, they're incorporating that mental health clinician. And maybe it is, like you said, interns, students, whatever the situation may be. Like, and I know both people are going to trust their PCP. They see them however frequently during the year or so on and so forth. So if this pops up on the questionnaire that they're using, it's like, hey, we got somebody that I recommend, some sort of a warm handoff. Like, if you're going to incorporate this, you can't just leave people. I don't think it's fair or right to kind of put them just for a thing like, all right, we'll put you on the list, but we're going to try to refer you to somebody that maybe that's outside. And like you said, you may have a therapist or somebody that's next door, and they may not even know each other. But this is what has to be incorporated. Like, if you're going to do a rollout or you're going to implement this, it's like, all right, well, what else are we doing? Should we, as the primary care office, incorporate a mental health clinician, right? Should we reach out to the local school that has a training program or whatever the situation may be, where it's like, all right, well, just get this, not just, you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like more resources need to be incorporated if you're going to say, hey, we're incorporating this screening into like your annual assessment or when you go see your physician. And if you come up with a particular score above the threshold, hey, this is what we're offering you, right? Maybe that's a perfect world, but I feel like if you are going to do that, like, you got to give some folks different options, or at least make it easier where, all right, well, we have somebody within our practice or next door or something rather that's within our health system that we can get you hooked up with, or at least that you can make contact or make that connection like you were talking about.
I mean, it's as simple as, and that's what I'm saying, like, nowadays, I would think it's probably a non-issue, because we was just talking about last week or the week before, Megan Thee Stallion got a button on her page where they'll bring you right to a approved person in your area. So if they could do that for their website in what I'm guessing is the last year, you know what I'm saying, then I know that there are already apps and resources that'll probably give you a clinician in your area in 30 seconds. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no, you
I mean, I'm not saying you, but I'm just thinking about it as we talking. I'm like,
and there's mad schools, Jay, and I know, like, how many schools outside of us, a school that we went to, every university had master's level clinicians that were part of the clinic. They got students, like, it can be done, right? It can be done where you have folks that are licensed, that are already finished master's level, doctor level, whatever the situation is. Like, in training, like, it's possible. Like you said, if you can get it pulled up on an app about somebody in your area, like, these hospitals or these health systems, and that's what a lot of even these small PCPs, they're part of health systems now. They're very rarely going to have these mom and pop old school doctors that have their own private practice. No, they're getting bought out by the health systems. So a lot of them are getting a part of things. So it's like like you said, I find it hard to believe also if Meg Thee Stallion and other different individuals can set up an app where finding resources. I mean, these primary care joints or the government can do it also. Just saying. So, but it's something to continue to watch to see how they're gonna, roll this out and how they're gonna implement this, and when this actually takes effect. Great idea. I just hope that when they are doing it, that it's fully, they're making modifications prior to them throwing it out there, as opposed to just, all right, we'll just put the screening out there, and then it's like, oh, well, what do we do when all these other different issues pop up? So we'll see. No doubt. Anything else before we get out of here, good brother?
No, that's it, man. Just as usual, I want to thank everybody who takes the time to listen weekly. We appreciate it. Please keep sending articles, DMs, with suggestions. We appreciate it in the comments. So thank you. And we're going to keep the content coming.
Absolutely. You want to make sure that everybody out there, I will reiterate everything that Jason said. And also, as we continue to make our way through this fall season, the days are getting shorter, the nights are getting longer. Please be safe out there. Please make sure you are doing things to improve and protect your mental health and engaging in self-care. And as well as mental health, make sure you go out there, you get on your phone or your computer, and you go to shopmentalhealthclothing.com. All right. Because not only do you want to protect your You want to wear your mental health. So what's better than protecting your mental health and actually looking good in a shopping, you know what I mean, a mental health, prioritizing your mental health t-shirt. I don't know what's better a combination than that, Jay. That's all I'm saying.
Ain't no better combination, man.
Do it. Everybody out there, go ahead and do it. All right, bro.
Word.
I will get at you.
All right, man.
Till next time, brother.
No doubt. I'm good.